The two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning have been up and down a bit this season. Adam Denker of Locked On Lightning joins us to discuss his team's progress 1 month into the new season.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Gil Martin here for the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. And right now, it's my pleasure to welcome in from Locked On Lightning, Adam Denker. First, want to thank everybody for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Adam, how are things going with the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, Gil. It's not often, and not many people could say that they are the guest on a show that they also co-host on another day. So, we spoke about it before we hit the record button. The Lightning, the numbers say otherwise, but they don't look like the defending champs right now. You could give a little bit leeway with the number and the records that they have right now due to their schedule. So, the strength of schedule and running into certain teams at this early in the schedule is kind of benefit them to a certain extent, but they are still finding their identity. I always say that on my show that really you don't see the true identity of an NHL team until at least possibly late December, New Year's. And that's when you kind of really know who's for real and who's not. So, you know what? My mantra on the show is hope for the best, expect the worst. But, even with the two-time champs, that could come into play.
So what's missing? What is the difference between the team that won 2 straight Stanley Cups and what we're seeing in the first month of the season so far on the ice for the Lightning?
Well, really, the one thing is missing is Nikita Kucherov. When he started the season, he was 100% healthy. Everybody was healthy on this team for the first time in a very long time. And then as soon as the team starts to get rolling and buzzing around the ice, looking like the Tampa Bay Lightning of old. And when I say Tampa Bay Lightning of old, I mean the team that won 4 months ago. He gets hurt. And now we're talking about him coming back possibly after the New Year's. So really, other than that, this team has really struggled to find their identity. And that really has come into play on the third line. As it's known with a lot of people, they completely lost their third line this offseason. Losing guys like Barclay Goodrow, in a trade because of cap constrictions and all of that. Blake Coleman, free agency, who they had no shot of re-signing him unless he was going to shoot for the absolute vet minimum, which we all know was not going to happen. And then Yanni Gordon in the expansion draft. So, really it's hard and for these guys. But the good thing is that they had a lot of young players with a lot of experience waiting in the wings. And so you're starting to see some guys like Ross Colton, Matthew Joseph starting to get it going. But you also have that mix of veteran guys like Corey Perry, who was signed in the offseason. And I think that, once you get Cooch back, because listen, he is the heart and soul of this team. You could say Vasilevskiy, you used to say Stammer, but really when 86 is on the ice, this team is completely different, especially on the power play, which they have struggled immensely this year.
Yeah, and when you look at the talent, you would think this power play should be clicking pretty well. What's been the problem with the man advantage right now?
Well, the problem is with the power play, really, it's really simple, is that in the last couple of seasons, and, you being my Eastern Conference Finals foe for the last couple of years could definitely see this, is that the defensemen, the blue liners, were very heavily involved, and not only on the man advantage, but just on the 5-on-5. And we haven't seen that as much this year. Victor Hedman, yes, he's second in points on the team, but he only has 1 goal. I mean, the Victor Hedman that we've seen over the last couple of seasons takes it deep into the slot, rips it now and then. You don't really see that a lot. And you don't see that with a lot of the other defensemen as well. And the other thing as well is it's Nikita Kucherov, his ability to play along the boards and set guys up in the slot, in the circle, Stamkos most notably for a one-timer. And that's what it really comes down to. They haven't really had that one guy who could go out there and basically just say, everybody skate around, get open, I'll find you. And they haven't really had that.
Stamkos is the one guy who has been very productive
Yes.
on the power play. And what has it been like for this team to finally have him back in the lineup on a game in and game out basis?
It has really been a breath of fresh air, given the last 3 or 4 years with his injury issues and everything that happened in 2019/20 and him scoring that incredible goal, iconic goal against the Stars, only playing 5 minutes. It's really nice to see a player of his talent be able to go out there and be healthy and play to the top of his game. And you've seen it. Like you said, he's really produced a lot on the power play, and that's mainly because he's been able to play and not play without any restrictions. And unfortunately, a guy like that, as talented as he is, he can't do it all. And that's why, he needs a guy like 86 to go out there and kind of, they're the 1-2 punch for this Lightning team. And if you, once you get 86 back, you'll really see more of an uptick in his numbers on the power play, I would imagine.
Talk to me about Vasilevskiy. I mean, one of the best, if not the best goalie in the league entering the season. His numbers are a little bit down, but not too far off where he usually is. What is your assessment of his play so far this year?
Well, I think with Vasilevskiy, it's only a matter of time with him. It's funny when you look at his numbers, when you say off, really what we're saying, it's off for him. I think any other team in the league, if you look at those numbers, you would love to have a goaltender with those kind of numbers. But yes, with Vazzy, he's human, and he's the kind of goaltender that you just got to keep playing him, and he'll get into the swing of things eventually. And a lot of it has to do, like I mentioned before we hit the record button, I was also mentioning continuity, and you haven't seen that with this team. And so there's been a lot of games this year thus far, 13 only, but still there's a large portion of those games where the Lightning haven't really gone out there and tried to win games for Vazzy. It's been more of the opposite. And really, it's tough for any goaltender to try and get into the swing of things to start a season when you're really, the weight of the world is on your shoulders to go out there and win games for your team on a nightly basis. But I think once they get a couple of guys going, and like I'm beating a dead horse at this point, once they get Kucherov back, I think you're really going to see a lot of players starting to produce more. It hasn't only been Vasilevskiy's numbers that are a little down, but it's Braden Point as well. He's having, really, this is supposed to be his breakout year. I mean, we've really seen him steadily develop into one of the most unassuming top scorers in the league. And I really thought this was going to be the year he was going to score 40. And I still think he has the potential to do that. But, we're in November now, almost halfway through into, and almost near December. And, the clock's ticking. So really what it comes down to, I think it's really, a couple of players are missing right now, as well as just guys still trying to find their identities on the ice and, adjust to new roles. And I think it's just affecting everybody as a whole.
Give me an idea of a player who is playing well for the Lightning, but is flying under the radar on a national perspective.
I would have to say Braden Point. Until he wins the Art Ross, I think that he is one of the most underrated players in the league. We've seen what he is capable of over the last couple of seasons, and just consistency in his game and just his ability to score from anywhere in the slot at any given point, which really makes him so deadly, because he's one of those players where you would think a player like that, you would keep your eye on him, but his just ability to find the right time, to be in position at all times, to be there for the one timer, it really is a great thing to see, especially when you have him lined up against Steven Stamkos on the ice.
No doubt about that. Tell our listeners where they could find you on social media and where they could find the podcast.
You could find me on Twitter at DenkyDank, DENKYD8NK. You could follow the show on Twitter at LO_Lightning, and give us a follow on Instagram at LockedOn_Lightning. Love hearing from all of you. If you want to go back and listen to our episodes, we had a monster summer. We had Kenny Albert on the show. We had Corey Perry, and we had Ross Colton. So it was within the span of a week of each other. So that was a great week for the show. So definitely go back and listen to that.
And when do you host this show, Locked On NHL?
Oh, I'm here on Thursdays, Gil. So at some point, to pay you back, we're gonna have to get you on the Thursday slot to to even things up here. So like I said, not many people could say they've been a guest on also a show that they host. So
all right, Adam Denker, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. I love Thanksgiving, all the good food and treats and plenty of them, but maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. Well, it's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is the new holiday treat. You can feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie has upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories and just 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. They're low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein, and all the bars are covered in 100% chocolate. Share some at your family gatherings. It'll make things less awkward. Maybe Aunt Betty hasn't tried a Built Bar yet. We'll have new surprises all month, limited time flavors arriving at Built.com regularly, so check the site often. And there's nothing like a Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises. Go to Built.com and use the promo code LOCK15. You'll get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKed15 for 15% off at Built.com. Want to thank everybody for joining us today and making Locked On NHL your first listen. We are free and available on all platforms.